Square. I'm going to make mine 2 inch by 2 inch by 2 inch. You can decide what size you want yours to be. And the reason this is 2D, and we call it 2D, because it has two dimensions. Right now it has length right here. It has height right here, but it does not have depth. So if I wanted to turn this into a 3D shape, I could either go back this way, putting it further that way, or I could go this way. So since I don't have any space this way, I'm going to be going this way. The trick to making a good cube or a square into a cube is to make sure that each one of these next lines is at the same angle. So right now, my line I just drew is at this angle right here. I'm going to keep that exact same angle and I'm going to move to right here. So this line is going this way. So this line from this corner is also going to have the exact same angle. Then the last one down here, it seems like you want to turn your ruler a little bit, but it needs to have the exact same angle as the first two. So I could see my ruler looks like it's going at the exact same angle as this line, which means right here, this line is going to be correct as well. So you can already see where our 3D shape is getting depth. To close off the back, I'm going to make a line that's going straight across my paper. So the top line in my square is going straight across my paper just like this. So this was my first line right here. It was at this angle going straight across. So when I slide my ruler back, I want to have the exact same angle as that first line in my square. And then I'm just going to draw straight across. And it's really hard to tell how long your lines need to be. So we just draw them and then we can erase the extra line we have there. I can tell now that my next line, I'm going to have some extra as well. That's okay. This is where a lot of us mess up. So right now my ruler is going straight up and down my paper because this line is going straight up and down my paper. So when I make the line back here, it also needs to be going straight up and down my paper at the same angle as this line of my square, the height line of my square. Then I'll just erase the extra, and now I have a cube. The next shape we're going to learn is the cone. So the cone is a little special in that it's basically just a triangle with a curved line at the bottom, but then the shading is what's going to make it different. So if I take a flashlight here and I have my cone, depending on where I keep my flashlight, I could cast a shadow in any direction. But if you look at the cone on its side, it goes from very bright to dark on this side. And that's what's going to make your cone look three-dimensional. If we have time, we'll talk about light source and casting a shadow like this. You can tell in the cone, it starts wide and then gets smaller. And if you come lower down, then it does the opposite. It starts at the corners and gets wider. So, but we'll talk about light source if we have time. First, let's learn how to draw the cone. So we're just going to start off by making a triangle. And it doesn't matter how wide your triangle is. If you make it skinny, then you're just going to have a skinny cone. If you make it wide, you're going to have a wide cone. Then the bottom line is going to be a curved kind of smiley face line or upside down rainbow line. It's just curved slightly. Then if we pretend that we have a light source coming from oh, I don't know, right here. If this is our light source and it's casting light this direction, then everywhere right here it's going to be white because it is light. And then as we come across about right here, it's going to start to have a shadow, and then it's going to get darker and darker. So the way we're going to color our shadow, our first shade, our very lightest shade, is we're barely even going to hold the pencil. So right now, I'm just resting the pencil on top of my fingers like this, and I'm holding it at the very back of my pencil, and just enough to where I can put my thumb on it. But I'm not holding it. I'm not pressing down on the pencil. I'm just barely keeping it in my hand. And then from all the way back here, I am going to just barely create these little circular shapes so that I'm adding just a tiny amount of graphite. Graphite is what's in your pencil that creates color. So I'm creating just the lightest amount of color right here, and I'm creating it in little circles so that you can't see my strokes. And that's going to be right down the middle of my cone. So if I zoom in here, you can see how it has just the lightest amount. And that went right down the middle of my cone. Then I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to rub it in just in the middle. I'm not rubbing everywhere, I'm just rubbing in the middle to make that smoother. Then, just to the side of the middle, I'm not adding any pressure. I'm just barely touching the paper with my pencil, but I'm going to create another layer. Now, I'm not adding any more pressure, but because I'm going on this a second time, it's just slightly darker. Now I'm going to rub that layer in, just off from the middle, blending it in. Then I'm going to start from the top here, and I'm going to create another layer. And this time, I'm holding it at the very back of my pencil. However, I am pressing down just a little bit. Still, my pencil is at a very light angle. It's almost completely sideways, almost laying down. It's not straight up and down like this. It's all the way off to the side. But I am adding a little bit of pressure to create a little bit of darkness right here. And I'm going almost all the way to the tip of my cone, but then down here, I'm kind of off to the side, the right side here. Okay, then I'm going to lift the angle of my pencil just a little bit and add just a tiny bit more pressure here. To create just a little bit darker layer. Then I'm gonna take my finger and blend in just that layer. I'm not coming all the way over here because that's gonna create our whole piece to become gray if I come over here. I'm just blending in that layer I had there. Now finally, I'm picking up my pencil as if I'd regularly draw in color, except for I'm holding it at the very back of the pencil, and I'm going to start to draw or color in, shade this next to last layer here. And then lastly, for the very edge, I'm going to scoot a little further on my pencil towards the middle. However, I'm not adding a lot of pressure. I'm just coloring it in completely here on the edge. And then I'm coming out just a little bit every now and then to create a little bit of a variant here so that it kind of fades off and it's not just a harsh line. If yours looks like this is good, but if yours looks like this, where it's a really hard line that just goes from this to completely light, if it goes from very dark to very light, without any gradient, then try to blend that in. Try to blend it in with your pencil by not adding any pressure, just keeping it nice and light, but blending it in so that it looks like a smooth transition from dark to light. Okay, the last thing we need to do is we're going to clean up any stray marks that we've made. And then over here on this edge, on this side where the light is hitting, I'm going to softly erase the line, but not completely, to where it's kind of faded, like this here. And then any last blending that you need to do to smooth out the gradients in between. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave my cone. Now let's talk about light source a little bit. Let me get my light out again. So if this cone had this shadow here from this height, that's kind of where I'm holding my light now, is it's coming down like this and then over here. So we'll create a shadow that looks like this. So what we're going to do is first, we're very, very lightly going to draw it. So you can tell that it's all the way at the bottom of the cone where it's starting, and then all the way over here at the bottom of the cone, but almost to the middle. So if this was the middle of our cone, that's where our shadow starts, and then at the very far edge. And really, this does not have a lot of gradient to it except for all the way up against this here, because we have some other lights coming in. So let's create that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of come out very, very lightly. I'm coming out, and then from about the middle, I'm coming in just like this. Okay, then I'm just going to shade that in using my finger. And I'm going to erase any strays marks that I have and any heavy marks that I used with my pencil to create that line. Kind of soften the edge. And then up against the cone is going to be the darkest. So I'm going to start there. And then I'm just going to lightly kind of shade out in the shape of that cone. And I can use my finger to blend. Okay, so there's our cone. It looks about like this right here. Well, maybe more like this angle. Now, if this same light source was hitting our cube and our cube was all the way down here, look at the crazy shape that it makes. Yeah, so it kind of comes out like this, and then from here, from the bottom, it is coming out like this, and then it kind of comes in. But since I'm out of paper, I'm not going to worry much about that cube. I'm just going to shade in like this here. It's always good to have a reference photo or something live like this cube here and an actual light to be able to see what something does according to the light. So don't ever try to draw just from memory, even after you've learned how to draw this, because this is not a shape that I would normally associate with trying to make this cube shadow, but it is. It's what's there. All right, let's do a couple others. I have a pyramid here, so we could do a pyramid real quick. I'm not going to worry too much about blending this shadow in. So a pyramid is also really easy. We're going to start off with just a triangle. And then this line isn't coming straight across. It's going to be coming a little bit up, but just slightly up in this angle. So it's kind of going that way, like this. And then the other line will be coming back away from it, like this. So it's at this angle. So here's this angle, and then the first angle is like this. So it's converging like a very wide V, this pyramid is. I mean, it could be skinnier and it would be further back, or depending on which angle you're looking at it. And then we just go from the very top of it down if this was our light source, it'd be hitting here, and then we would have a shadow that starts here and then fades. The next thing we're going to create is a cylinder. I don't have a cylinder reference, except for I do have this bottle here. So whenever we're creating a cylinder, we're going to start off with kind of a smiley face line, like this one here. It's just kind of light, and then you're going to turn it into an oval by creating the opposite angle right here. So this is the start of our cylinder. Then it's going to come straight down. Depending on how tall you want it to be, you could decide. And then it needs to have the same angle as this side of the cone. It needs to have that same smiley face line, that same angle. Then same here with the light source. If it was hitting right here, then it'd be darker on this side, and then getting lighter as we got closer to the middle. With this light source coming from here, it also would be pretty dark up top. Then because of where this light source is, it would be casting a shadow in the opposite direction, so like this, and getting wider. So it would be coming from here, and it would be getting wider like this, and it would fade off. So it would start off dark, and then it would fade off very quickly. And our pyramid would have a light source that would almost be like this, almost just a very skinny triangle. There's our skinny triangle. It'd be like that, coming from here.